Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys to move a little. How many of you sitting here dream to work for or want to work for one of these companies? Raise your hands. Higher. Whoa, ambitious room. And how many of you can think of a particular role or a position that you know already exists at these companies that you would want to take or work on? Not that many. Now, that brings me to the topic of my talk, which is that as students or recent graduates, we often fall into this trap of aligning our dream jobs with some of the big brand companies. We tell ourselves that I majored in journalism and I'm really passionate about journalism, so I should be aiming for New York Times. Or I did filmmaking and I love animating films, so maybe I should be aiming for Disney. Or I want to do programming at Facebook, or I want to do consultancy and Bain, and so on and on. And somehow, we fall into this trap of looking at the biggest the biggest brand names in our respective industry, that we get so fixated that they become our dream jobs. And somehow that culture also gets institutionalized. Even the universities or the institutes that we go to kind of promote that culture where success gets defined by where you're working. Let me elaborate by showing you some examples. Here's a screenshot of a journalism school from US. I've, of course, blurred out the name because I don't want to walk out here with a lawsuit. But as you can see at the bottom, they have names of where their alumni are working. So they say 70% of their alumni get employed within a year at organizations like New York Times, Washington Post, BuzzFeed, now there's Al Jazeera, and on and on. Here's another one from Qatar. Again, some of the biggest brand names are organizations in Qatar. Here's another one of a school that I wouldn't name, but they are our neighbors. As you can see. And here's my favorite one, big flashing logos. This is an actual website of a university. Now, what's missing from these websites is what these alumni are doing. No one's talking about what are the daily projects or the daily tasks that these people are working on. What seems to be happening is that we're promoting this culture of what brand names are associated with your name. Now, there's nothing wrong for aiming for these companies, and I don't mean to discourage you from doing that. But if you happen to be one of the few people in the room who actually might end up a job at one of these companies, then it might not be the best solution for you. And as weird as it sounds, it's probably not going to help you in the long run. Now, let me explain why that's the case by sharing a personal story. When I was in your place as a senior, I was applying for jobs. And I was someone who just wasn't going to graduate with a degree in journalism, but was really passionate about doing journalism. So again, I was really looking at only the big names in news media. And I was lucky enough to land a job at Al Jazeera, one of the dream places that I wanted to work for, and a lot of media graduates in the region would want to work at. I started working at Al Jazeera as an interactive journalist, working on news graphics, and I was really enjoying my time there. But about a year into my job, I had some issues with my residency where it wasn't certain if I would be able to continue with Al Jazeera if my residency was going to expire, so I started looking at other options as a backup option. Now, at that time, I got an offer from Qatar Foundation for a marketing position in QF Comms. For me, at that point, Qatar Foundation was an outlier organization. Now, I know for many, it's an ideal employer, and it's one of the biggest brands in Qatar, but given my career interest, I wasn't sure if I should take a marketing position and work at QF, because again, I thought that maybe, in the long run, it's not gonna help my career. I thought that maybe I'm gonna be wasting the years at QF by doing marketing, and when I come back to journalism, I'll have to start again. And what happened was that when I joined QF, I was also actually worried about what the people will say. Now, I was someone who was known in the university for pursuing journalism, so I was afraid that I'll be held accountable to leaving journalism and going for a different company. And honestly, one thing I was worried about, which is funny, is that at a family gathering, I would have to explain to my family back home what QF does, which I'm still struggling to do. And every time I try, the only thing that take away is that, oh, it pays for your people's education, so it has a lot of money. And I'm like, no, that's not what it does. But that's the only thing that they appear to take away. But what I want to talk about here is that I spent almost 1 year at Al Jazeera, and I've spent almost more than 1 year at QF. And as surprising as it may sound, I think looking back in retrospect, I might have progressed in my journalism career a lot more at QF than I ever did at Al Jazeera. Now, the reason for that is that one, when I told myself that I wanted to be a journalist, I was thinking of writing and telling stories. But that's something I wasn't able to do at Al Jazeera. I was working as an interactive journalist doing graphics, so I was limited to that role. And given the competitive environment of Al Jazeera, they had much better writers than me, so of course they weren't going to let me write. But at QF, I'm actually doing a lot more editing and writing on a daily basis. And what that's doing is that's helping me polish my skills in editing and writing. I'm reporting on a weekly basis. I'm in touch with media organizations for brand engagement. And what it's really pushing me to do is see the other side of journalism or polish my skills. That is really helping me, in the long run, develop my journalistic skills. Now, if I were to go back at Al Jazeera, I think I would have better skills that I can use there than I did if I were to stay there. Now, I don't mean to suggest that one of my employers was better than the other, or that one profession might be better than the other. What I want to stress here is that when you are thinking of a brand name, think of what's going to help you grow. Now, it's very easy to go for a brand name, go for a company that will look good on your resume. But when you think of a company, think of what will help you actually do tasks on a daily basis that you're going to learn or expand. And I honestly had an amazing time at Al Jazeera. I met some of the best media people there and learned a lot. But at the end of the day, I expected that from Al Jazeera. What I didn't expect was that maybe there's a company out there that I never considered working for, which actually might offer something similar or better. On a side note, it's really funny because I have people both from Al Jazeera and QF sitting here. And I've signed a waiver that this will be online forever, and I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. I guess it's too late. What I want to stress here is that when you think of an ideal employer, think of what will help you grow, not what will look good on your LinkedIn profile. Sometimes the big and famous brands do not necessarily offer you enough capacity to expand or utilize your full potential. And here's another hard-to-digest reality. If you have been looking at a particularly globally renowned brand for a while, chances are it already has someone that likes of you. So one, it's going to be really hard to get in. And two, even if you get in, they're going to have tons of people who bring the same skills, are from the same background, so you're going to really you'll really struggle to excel there. So in the long run, you might actually be better off at working at an outlier organization, which could be a corporation that doesn't really fall in the area you got your degree in, or it could be a small startup that you've never heard of and are too afraid to take on as a job. However, I know it's easier said than done, because when you're looking for a job, you just want a job. You don't care where it is, and I know. But from my experience, and I'm no expert, there are a few things you can do to make an ideal choice for your employer. Firstly, think of what you want to do, not what you think will look cool. And again, I've said that before, I know. And I know particularly for many of us here who are in the media world, it's really hard to do that because we want to be known for our name. We want a byline over our article, or we want our name in the credits and so on. But again, focus on the work, not on the brand. Secondly, find a job that has the role that matches your strength. And I know that's very straightforward, probably cliched, but the reason I'm putting it up here is because since I've graduated, I've been approached by people who say, hey, is your company offering any position? And when I say, what kind of job would you want? And they're like, anything. And I'm like, but what department do you see yourself working in? They're like, anything. And I'm like, yeah, but you need to know what you want to do or what you're good at. And they're like, no, I'm a recent graduate, I don't have experience, and I think I should be open to learning anything new, so I'm good with anything. But if I'm ever to hire that person, I'm probably not going to hire them because they're not bringing something new. So look for a job that has a significant proportion of things that you know already how to do, but then it also offers you something new that you don't know how to do. So it should be a balance between those. Thirdly, and this is my favorite, find a job that you love in a setting that you fear. Now, what I mean about that, about this is find a job where that has the projects or the tasks that you want to do on a daily basis, which might be outside of your comfort zone. So for most of us here, that might mean working at a non-media company in a media job. Because trust me when I say this, a non-media company might actually offer better media opportunities for you in the long run. And what this is going to help you do is that when you enter an industry where you're not already next to people who have come from a similar background, you're going to stand out. And you're going to be ending up getting a lot more responsibilities, which will really push you to learn more. So in the end, if you're ever focusing on choosing between two jobs, two careers, or two places to apply for, you might actually be better off at one which is going to help you grow instead of one that has a better brand name. And I'll leave you with this note. Remember, when thinking of jobs, where you're doing it should never be more important than what you're doing. Thank you.